Hey Vinyl Community, this is Chris. I'm back to do the 1954 Gimme 10 video. I'd like to stay within shouting distance of Sounds Strange, and he just put out his 1955 video earlier in the week or over the weekend. So this will be 1954. Mostly classical music, but you know, didn't want to just put everything out there, so there's two I think that are non-classical. But so to start with, all right, as an intro into this 1954 Gimme 10, first off I will show the beer of the night. This is from the Straight to Ale Brewery, and this is called Shout at the Devil, which is an oatmeal stout. So this is a local brewery. Oatmeal stout with coffee flavors. So won't be able to drink these much longer since it's more for the wintry months, and now we're approaching spring. So thanks everybody. On to the video. Some CDs. This is the music of William Alwyn. Piano Music Volume 1 and 2. And this one, the piece is Fantasy Waltzes, which is the last, last track on the album. These were written in 1954 and 1955. 10 tracks on this CD, which is on the Naxos label, put out in 2007. 2007. So I just got those today. Here's Volume 2. Again, more solo piano by Ashley Wass as the pianist on these. So, Fantasy Waltzes, 1954. And then another one from 1954. This is Henry Cowell. This is a compilation called the Classic Ultra Modernist on Musical Heritage Society label. And the piece here is Quartet for flute, oboe, cello, and harpsichord, which was written in 1954. Right above my finger there. So Henry Cowell, a quartet piece, 1954. And then we have Ernst Krenek. The album is called 12-Tone Miniatures, and this one is from 1954. The last 20 pieces on here called 20 Miniatures. Opus 139. So Robert Blumenthal is the pianist, and from this album, Ernst Krenek, 20 Miniatures, 1954. And from the title, 12 tone, so it's in the that system of composing. And then the last one is Alexander Tcherepnin. More piano music as played by Bennett Lerner. And this one is 8 pieces for the piano. Started in 54, finished in 55, so part of those 8 pieces are from 1954. This is on the Etc. label. Alexander Tcherepnin. And now to get into the vinyl and finish off all the CDs. This album, Stefan Wolpe on Esoteric Records, was released in 1954. I showed this recently. So the only wrinkle I can offer for this is here's the reissue version of it on Hat Hut label. First recordings from 1954. David Tudor plays piano on part of this, and then there's some other musicians because they're not all solo piano recordings. But so that's the reissue version of this album here. And in case anyone forgot what the label looked like, there's the Esoteric label. Oops, there we go. All right, next album is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. So I got this box set here. Complete works for piano solo with Walter Geisking as the pianist. This is on the Angel label. So it's this fairly massive set, 11 LPs in this nicely textured box type enclosure. Goes with this booklet, nice string in it. There's the pianist, descriptions of the works, and then 11 albums in this heavy cardstock sleeves. On the Angel label. So Mozart piano, solo piano, complete. Next we have this is a Robert Schumann piece. This album was released in 1954 with Pablo Casals on cello. This is the Concerto in A minor for cello and orchestra, Opus 129, on the Columbia label. This was later released on the gray 6-eye Columbia Masterworks version, but this is the original, I think. So Robert Schumann, Concerto for Cello and Orchestra, released in 1954. And here we have the Cuban pianist Ernesto Lecuona. Jose Chavez is Chanas is the pianist. So solo piano works by the Cuban pianist. This is on the Westminster label. Released in 1954. And getting towards the end here, Percy Grainger, Country Gardens and Other Piano Music, is played by Daniel Odney on the Seraphim label. It's kind of a pale label, but you see the image in the background, I hope. So this the Sailor Song, which is the second to the last track on the album, was a 1954 composition, the Sailor Song. So, solo piano composed by Percy Grainger and played by Daniel Odney. So I think that's all of the classical music, and then just to round it out with two non-classicals. Thelonius Monk piano solos. The album is Pure Monk. So this includes some piano solos recorded in '54, and this is on the Trip label. So 1954 recordings on that reissue label, and then finally some blues. Junior Wells, blues hit Big Town. So this is on the Delmark label. And it's basically two sessions, one from '53 and one from '54. So, of course, I'm featuring the 1954 recordings on this. Which are, these are including some previously unissued songs, some alternate takes. 1954. Junior Wells. All right, so that concludes 1954. Now I have to start working on trying to identify some 1955 recordings. And as you can see, it's difficult since I'm only doing about half vinyl and half CD, and it's difficult even finding documentation on what was composed or premiered in 1954. But Somehow Rob, it sounds strange, seems to have no problem doing that, but I'm struggling, but we'll see what happens. Maybe as it gets later in the century, it'll be easier. We'll find out. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you later.